I know people are still gathering in the room, but we'll go ahead and begin. This is our first webinar of 2023. So excited to have you all here. We're going to be discussing the convergence of operations and the IT function, specifically in the manufacturing and industrial sector, how technology-based solutions can drive EBITDA growth. So looking forward to that panel. Before we get there, we have a few housekeeping things to get through. For those of you I have not had the opportunity to meet, my name is Lena Dobrier. I'm the Director of Operations at Opus. We are a membership-based organization catering to lower middle market M&A professionals. So our membership is primarily private equity firms, investment bankers, lenders, independent sponsors. We are doing 350 events a year now, if you can imagine it. Majority online, but I think 50 or so in person, members only roundtables, Deal Connect, which is really the bread and butter of the business. This event is actually tied to our manufacturing and industrial Deal Connect coming up on the 22nd of February, I believe, where we're pairing up capital providers and investment bankers in manufacturing for one-on-one meetings. So lots going on. If you're interested in learning a bit more, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or one of my colleagues. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Today, we will be taking live Q&A. So as questions pop up, please submit those in the Q&A bubble at the bottom of your screen. I will ask that you refrain from using the chat function. We won't be monitoring that, but go ahead and submit any questions that you have in that Q&A box below, and we will try to get to as many as possible. Before we begin, we have a question for you all. We would appreciate your participation. I'm going to go ahead and launch that on the screen now. We want to know who you are. Are you a capital provider on the debt side, maybe the equity side, an independent sponsor, a banker, an owner or operator, service provider, or other? Let us know. We'll give it 30 seconds or so. This will help us get an idea of who's in the audience and who our panel is addressing today, so we can try to tailor the conversation to make it most meaningful for everyone on the call. So again, we'll give it about 10 seconds and then we'll move forward. Okay, so it looks like 18% on the capital provider debt side, 9% on the capital provider equity side, 9% independent sponsors, 27% of you all are investment bankers, another 9% owner operators, C-suite executives, service providers, and others. So thank you all for participating in that. And without further ado, I would like to introduce today's moderator, Ted Morgan, a partner at Plant Moran. They've been a longtime sponsor and friend of Opus. Ted has done a number of these by now, so he's kind of a pro. So I'll go ahead and kick it over to you, Ted.
All right. Thank you for that, Lena. And good morning, good evening. Hopefully not good night for everyone on the call here. Yeah, it's been great to partner with Opus Connect over the years. And so we're looking forward to today's discussion. We'll do a kind of traditional process here. We've all been through these, right? So I'll do a quick intro on Plant Moran, and then we'll kind of kick it over to do some intros of our panelists. Let's see. So Plant Moran, you see, founded in 1924. So we're coming up on we're in our 99th year in business. Very proud of that. We started in Detroit, Michigan, literally blocks away from where Ford Motor Company was making the Model T. Really for the first 50 years of our existence, we're very traditional, say, audit and tax shop. And then over the last 49 years, we've definitely transitioned to much more of a full service business advisory firm. So audit, tax, many arms of consulting, strategy and operations, due diligence, interim financial support, and IT consulting. And then as well as an investment banking practice and a corporate real estate practice. So the common thread for like how we deploy all those services is middle market. So of course we do have some Fortune 100 clients, but as we've kind of grown the practice over the last 99 years, middle market is really our kind of our core. So that's a little bit background. I'd say, well, so dots on the map, 25 offices globally, 3,700 folks globally, mostly though in the Midwest and in the Rocky Mountain region. We have 4 international offices that Plamorant owns. And I'd say as we talk about industries, right? We started by where Ford is. We work with a lot of manufacturing, with a lot of services, industries, technology companies, healthcare. Thousands of clients in each one of those sectors. But when manufacturing, that is our deepest, as you may expect, with kind of like where we were born and raised. So with that, that's a little bit background on us. And I would say, as we come to this is more of a private, this is definitely more of an M&A crowd. Over like just the last, say, 15 years, have we grown just a significant private equity practice with 600 clients, about which at least half are investing in industrial manufacturing companies. So I think as we kind of come today, talk about Industry 4.0, it's been kind of, frankly, a nice marriage, if you will, of our private equity clients with our middle market manufacturers kind of coming together. The ones that are PE owned tend to be one that, kind of subscribe to, hey, what's this Industry 4.0 all about? Let's do that. So that's a little background on us. I will kick it over to my fellow panelists. So it looks like Rudy's first on the list. So Rudy, would you mind give us an intro on yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Ted. I'm a partner at Mirus Capital Advisors. We're a middle market focused investment bank based in the Boston area. We're working generally with companies in the Northeast, but our practice is global. Right now, we're working with companies in Singapore and India and Europe. So our practice is based around our knowledge of the markets. I work in the tech space. My background is primarily working, spent 15 years on Wall Street working with big public companies in the tech sector. In the infrastructure side, that's everything from semiconductors to systems. And so my background is more from the IoT and the components that are contributing to the collection of the data that these IT systems are working with and the enterprise software companies. We do about 10 transactions a year. Our clients are ranging everything from divestitures from big companies that are owned by private equity companies to founders who have been working for 50 years to build a business. And so our typical transaction size is between, say, 25 and 500 million. And we've been doing it. Mirus has been around for 30 plus years. We've worked on over 350 transactions. And our focus is really working with the customer and the client to embed with them and create value as they look for exit events or for financings to fund future growth.
Great. Thank you, Rudy. And so diverse background there. I think that's a common thread for all 4 of us. So with that, thanks for that, Rudy. Let's go. Let's see, Lauren, next on the screen.
Sounds great. Lauren Dunford, CEO and co-founder of Guidewheel. We're the leading factory ops platform. So what that means is we take the kinds of real-time plant floor visibility that previously would cost huge amounts of money and require bringing in troops of consultants to get. And we make all of that plug and play so that any factory of any size can have their team clip on sensors and have the visibility and tools they need to drive EBITDA really quickly, asset utilization, all those key metrics, literally within 24 hours, same day. The design is really kind of different and elegant in that the sensors use the power draw. They clip around the power cord and use that electrical heartbeat of the equipment as a proxy for how it's running. And then we layer on not just runtime and downtime, but speed, output, whether there's a problem that might be coming, all those key metrics and alerting. And because it's electrical to start, we also are building in for the future all of the carbon and sustainability or energy efficiency tools that folks will increasingly want as that might become a priority. At the moment, we work with 100 plus manufacturers ranging in size from single plant owner operated to our sweet spot really being that mid-market, Igloo coolers, Pretium packaging, and now increasingly also some Fortune 500 manufacturers as well. In terms of right now, we're seeing this macro environment creating a lot of demand. So have been growing 2 to 3x year over year in terms of the number of manufacturers we work with, releasing 100 plus new features a year, kind of quickly growing software, and especially seeing a sweet spot with private equity backed mid-market manufacturers looking for really a very fast way to drive EBITDA. And that's us.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. Tom, take us home.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Nice to meet you and participate. I'm the founder of Range Light Capital. We were established in 2020. Our primary role is to advise buyers or sellers of companies to find an ownership transition or to help grow their business through further acquisition and development. Our kind of niche in doing that is what we consider is kind of the non-auction process, which is we're looking to find bespoke introductions of sellers and buyers. We have found that many sellers have traditionally have becoming sort of frustrated with traditional broad auctions. It's not for everybody. Consume a lot of management time and so forth. And buyers similarly have issues with spending time on processes that they really have very little control or information. So we have a very kind of different approach to both of those. We try to make both sides feel that they are working on a potential transaction that has a good outcome and a likely outcome for both buyer and seller. So we oftentimes are paid by both sides of the deal, buyer and seller, and that makes people feel that we as a firm are working for the deal. My prior work experience was with McKinsey & Company, and then Goldman Sachs and RBC Capital Markets. So a lot of M&A and a lot of strategy and all that. 35 years, primarily, most of it has been spent, well, 35 of more than that in experience spent with industrial manufacturing companies. So I've been through a lot of plants around the world. I've also been on the board or currently on the board of 3 companies. One is called Circor International. It's a flow control company, global in nature. Another is Tego Comfort Solutions, which is heating, ventilating, air conditioning solutions and technology. And currently Laticrete International, which is a worldwide leader in tile adhesives, tile installation systems.
Great. Thank you, Tom. And quick geography check. Tom, where are you out of?
Out of the East Coast, out of New York and New Jersey is our principal home state, but we work with companies all over. As
yes,
you can imagine.
Yes, of course. So you're based in kind of New York area, Jersey, Rudy, Boston. Lauren, where are you out of?
I'm out of California. The team is all over though, in the same way.
Of course, same. So plant really Detroit, Denver, Chicago, kind of be our 3 main business hubs for cities wide. But of course, we serve clients globally. I'll wrap it up on my intro. Just personally, I'm a partner in our strategy and operations practice. Day job is kind of around commercial due diligence, market analysis. More internally, I have a leadership role in 2 practices, automotive and manufacturing. Kind of why I'm here. So I would just say, as we've kind of grown up, our practice of manufacturing over several decades now, kind of really helping that with, to really penetrate private equity firms that are interested in our services. So I think that's just kind of quick on my role. Before joining Plant Moran, I was actually in the auto industry. I'm a Detroit guy. So I came out of Magna, large $40 billion company. That was kind of the end of my industry run for about 10 years, sales, program manager, product launch. Before the beginning of my industry run, I was small cap, just single plant, founder, owner, operated business. So my consulting kind of career started on the backs of a fairly diverse kind of range of companies, all with the common thread of manufacturing. Okay. So thanks for everyone for joining today. Let's kick this bad boy off. So I think if you kind of read the synopsis on this thing, right? It's just like, I think the first thing we'll do today is kind of talk about what is Industry 4.0. There's a lot of range of and just frankly, not a lot of clarity, I think, in the market for that, particularly in the middle market. So kind of walk through that. And we'll just get very practical, right? As Laura, myself, Tom, and Rudy kind of prepare for this. This is, hopefully the folks listening in, there's some just real tangible things to kind of take away from this. So we kind of, pressed ourselves to do that. So talk about how it's being used for middle market companies. And so I think we come to this panel, I think energized around just really what we're going to talk about, because I think it is pretty real items that I think can be kind of demonstrate really what Industry 4.0 is all about. Of course, we have 2 great investment bankers on the phone, with Tom and Rudy. So we'll definitely get to we'll kind of finish off the panel with really what they're seeing, particularly with how all this Industry 4.0 stuff relates to deal execution, deal multiples, valuations, those types of things. So I think there's kind of something for everyone on this call. So I would say this. So to kind of level set, getting back to kind of what is Industry 4.0, really it is a technical term. It's not a marketing slogan. And so 4.0, for most of the call knows, but maybe some don't. So this is kind of a refresher. Industry 1.0 started in the 1700s, right? Is to talk about, the creation of machines that are powered by water and steam. So mechanics, true like gears and things being made through that. So that was kind of the beginning of of Industry 1.0. Industry 2.0 started about 100 years later in the kind of call it mid 1800s. That really kind of brought the notion of mass production and also electricity, right? That was a big deal as it relates to manufacturing. So you think at the same time, in our country, right, where there's a civil war going on. So you think of the things that are being used to kind of create some of the things around that. There weren't automobiles yet, but the 1870s, if you will, kind of was really kind of like the decade that kind of like marks, kind of really 2.0 was established. Moving ahead, another 100 years or so, in the 1960s and 70s come around, Industry 3.0, talking really more about the introduction of computers, right? Automation, robots, right? So that's been around for 50 years now, right? And so now I think as we talk about 4.0, we haven't waited, as you notice, like we haven't waited 100 years for 4.0. It's about, 40, 50 years is kind of where it started. And some would say that it started as early as, say, the 2000 era, around the .com era, when the internet kind of really became relevant to like the business world. And so how are we going to say whether it's 2020 or 2010 or 2005 when it started? It's really around the integration of software and data analytics, and the keyword connectivity. And so that really is it's kind of, I guess, how you think of 4.0. And that's kind of where we are at. And of course, there's talks about what 5.0 will look like. So 4.0, again, software, internet, connectivity. Those are kind of the key takeaways. So that's just definitional. So I want to ask, kick it over to the panelists. Maybe Tom, lead us off. Just kind of reflect to the group here, just in general, high level, what does Industry 4.0 mean to you in the context of middle market?
Okay, sure. Thank you, Ted. I think that I look at it as a transition that's blurring the boundaries between the digital and the physical world that we and our clients kind of operate in. My earliest exposure would have been working with industrial technology companies. In the early days, we used to call this marking, sensing, and tracking technology. So barcode scanning, image tracking, error, defect identification, and so on. This has evolved in a lot of our companies to Internet of Things and edge computing. So, as the embedding of technology and connectivity out to the field has allowed companies to service equipment, diagnose equipment, instruct their sales force, facilitate their channels. All that part of the 4.0 heavily driven by the power of mobile computing, right? Handheld devices, super powerful, super responsive. So when I think about Industry 4.0, that transition is what I'm seeing in the marketplace.
Very helpful, right? Lauren, I know you have you have a perspective as well. Share with us, particularly obviously in your line of business. So what does 4.0 kind of mean to you, and really for also just the folks in engaging on today's conversation with us?
Yeah, definitely. And this is kind of from a mid-market and ecosystem-wide perspective. What I'm seeing are really three things that differentiate what we're seeing right now in Industry 4.0 against what was available in the past. And the first is ease and accessibility. In the past, lots of stuff was really heavyweight and cumbersome to get started. And yes, you can still find plenty of cumbersome systems today, no doubt. But there are also options in the marketplace that are, days, not weeks, months, or years to get started. And that just, across the board, whether it's where we play on the plant floor or in other systems, is a recurring theme that increases accessibility of this kind of stuff far beyond the, biggest manufacturers in the world that used to have access. Second thing is speed to value, because, and Tom, this goes a little bit to what you talked about the handheld and mobile accessibility, because it's so much easier to reach everybody within a plant or a company versus have a few experts who know how to read, vibration sensor data. It's much more possible now to very quickly start seeing those bottom line results and not have to wait for months or years for the impact of investments in Industry 4.0 to hit the bottom line. And then the last piece is around kind of the ability of the technology now to meet each team where they're at and not to necessarily be static and all or nothing from the start. And why I think that's particularly important, given what we see in the mid-market, is oftentimes there's a range of digital maturity, a range of whether folks have older machines or newer machines, or any plant might have a bunch of both, and also a range of the kind of existing IT or OT infrastructure within a plant. And so the way that I'm seeing Industry 4.0 play out is the ability to come in and do a journey that's not all or nothing from the start, but is much more crawl, walk, run, getting started at a crawl, if that makes sense for a team, getting started at a walk and then running, if that makes sense for a team, and having the technology be about a journey with the team rather than about a static system. So those are my thoughts.
Awesome. Great thoughts. Thank you, Lauren. Rudy?
Yeah, I think the panelists have mentioned a lot of big themes, and I think and I'll just amplify on them. I think a lot of what we're seeing now, to what Lauren and Tom mentioned, was the maturity of certain technologies and now the integration of all that stuff to create an easily accessible thing. And that happened in the office for IT with spreadsheets and Outlook and all this stuff. And now it's happening on the manufacturing floor or in whatever the business's operating environment is. And that's really important. So it's creating a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs and companies to insert themselves into the value chain and displace and be insurgents in what was traditionally a very monolithic, big industrial strength solutions that were very good for big manufacturers, but for small shops really weren't used or implemented. So the fact that you could be running a small restaurant and you can manage your all your devices and understand what the refrigerator temperature is and how the fryer is working and all that stuff, and get that on your iPhone is amazing. And this is what's it's spurring a big revolution in investment from venture capital firms, and also consolidation as companies are trying to pull together complete solutions that have a broad suite of functionality and integrate all these things. So from our side, we're seeing a lot of investment on edge devices, from the semiconductor to the complete solution, the analytics software that's in the cloud, the connectivity and the radios that are connecting all this stuff, and all that is creating value. And I think, again, for the buyer's perspective, there's a lot of folks out there that are looking to pull together comprehensive solutions for folks. And so they may have a very good sensor chip, but they may not have the right kind of predictive analytics that they want to add. They may have a good sensor for doing one thing, but they want to now look at decarbonization and how that can meet energy savings needs, which have suddenly come to the top. So that's one thing. The other thing that I think that has also come up is, with the new political environment and problems with supply chain, reshoring manufacturing has become a big theme we've seen from buyers, and because of supply chain and inventory issues. So that's another driver for why there's a lot of interest and investment, and why it's relevant to middle market companies. The $50 million company that's a specialty metals manufacturer, or that's providing some kind of operational controls in components for a bigger manufacturer. Now it makes sense for them to be implementing a lot of these new solutions and technologies.
Yeah, great comments there, Rudy. I'll kind of wrap up with my own thought. I'm gonna just be a little bit more reflective because I can't add a whole lot more to what I think the three of you articulated is really good. The thing, here's my reflections. Like, the thing I like about Industry 4.0 is it's just approachable. It's how many times we sat on, her either been on panels ourselves or listened to speakers talk through like the 90s, the 2000s around robots and lean manufacturing, right? And again, we work with just hundreds of private equity firms that are buying industrial manufacturers. There's not a ton that like automotive, because automotive is kind of a four-letter word in a lot of middle market private equity for various reasons. But I'm gonna give an automotive example from my automotive days. Like, I worked at my final automotive days were in industry, were at Magna, this massive juggernaut company, right? And historically performed extremely well compared to its market competitors. And I just still remember like watching these folks, these continuous improvement, managers, just like get in war rooms and like take this pen, like how in the heck are we going to eke out another half cent on how we make this thing? And I guess it's just, so a lot of industries, not as auto, but a lot of industries, that's kind of been that's old hat, like we got cobots, we're trying to automate, we get it, we can't have 20 people sitting around at a plant. But I think like what I get energized around 4.0 is this is different, right? This is a different way to drive EBITDA. So I like that. And I think it does make it, maybe Rudy, to one of your points, it just makes the manufacturing world a little bit more interesting and attractive for investors and investments, period. So good discussion there. Let's jump into some different examples. So Tom, I'm going to start with you first, right? So recap to the crowd here, right? You got Fortune 100 back in your background, McKinsey, big cap stuff, and now you're leading and starting a bank, an investment bank, just 3 years ago around middle market. So you've kind of seen big and small. Like, talk to us a little bit about what that shift has been like as it relates to 4.0, because you've seen probably more prevalent in your bigger chip days, your blue chip days. So just talk about that. I think it's an interesting narrative you can probably share with the crowd.
Yeah, no, I think that working in the middle market and also in the lower middle market, we're seeing that companies don't have the large internal technology staffs that you might see at a big firm, but that doesn't seem to prevent them from accessing great resources. The level of innovation, the number of startups that are around. My kids, a couple of my kids all graduated Stanford, and it's just an enormous plethora of startup and innovation that is available to relatively small companies.
Right.
So I think that I wouldn't see that as being. I think it's more a question of not having to own it, but having to know how to find it and access it. The other thing that I've seen is that many of the companies that I've worked with, Ladecrete, which I'm on the board of, the place of innovation doesn't necessarily come from the place closest to the headquarters. Some of Ladecrete's markets where they're most innovative come from their presence in India, where the use of mobile technology is allowing them to put stuff in the hands of a very diverse set of installers and parts of their channel, where somebody can go in their own native language, by the way, evaluate a new opportunity, measure the space, quote the job, calculate what is needed for them to be done, order the materials, etc. I mean, that level of efficiency actually far exceeds what we have in the United States, and it's the fact that it's in a very emerging market, very rapidly growing, gave them the ability to really move to almost a leapfrog to the newest level of execution. So small companies have great opportunities to do things and in growing markets.
Great, thanks for that, Tom. So good kind of big company to small middle market company perspectives from Tom. Let's go back over to Lauren. Talk about what you see at Guidewheel and specifically how this is impacting manufacturers on the floor that you are the floors of the clients you're working with.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just dive in with a super concrete example here. And this is one that there's lots more detail. Industry Week did a story on it. So I'll start with a manufacturer called Pencolor, 5 plants domestically, 2 internationally. And they had really aggressive growth goals. So they wanted to be growing 30 to 35%. And what Guidewheel at the end of the day enabled them to do is meet those continuous growth goals with their exact same assets and team. What that looked like from a practical perspective was they clipped on the sensors, calibrated, made sure that the data was right. Importantly, and this is real world, at first the team didn't believe that the runtime and downtime data on their assets was accurate coming from Guidewheel. They thought, oh, we must have been running more, over the night shift, and it didn't match their manual reports. Then they started cross-checking, and everywhere they cross-checked, the data checked out. And what that meant was, gaining the team's trust that, wow, this is actually accurate, but also a huge amount more capacity on their existing assets than anyone had known existed. So they then just, started that journey of looking at the real data every morning to start, aligning everyone around that visibility, starting with utilization and having that be the metric that they wanted to move first. For them, that was the low-hanging fruit on the plant floor. So they started with one thing and focused the whole team around it. Then they started to apply, continuous improvement processes. So putting a name to the reason for the downtime, rolling the 80-20 analysis of, we have a few causes of downtime that are way more impactful from others. Let's identify those top offenders. Let's zero in on them. And then let's rinse and repeat week over week in that continuous improvement cycle. And they ended up improving just within a couple of months, their asset utilization 30 to 35% across all of their key assets. And on the most important bottleneck machines, 50% improvement, which is mind-boggling. Like, this is something that is a tiny investment. It's, of course, about the team using and getting excited to win the hour, win the shift, win the day around that data. And they also were able to reduce maintenance cost by 3% overall by being able to really target maintenance on the equipment that was showing wear and tear versus on all pieces of equipment in the same way. From a kind of practical sales and ops perspective, just so I imagine you're sometimes in the room when those teams are talking to each other, what this also looked like was ops and sales leaders being able to look at the same capacity across all their plants, pinpoint where they had available capacity to sell on specific types of equipment, and then sell in to that equipment at very high contribution margin. So that ability to really pinpoint the fastest low-hanging fruit to drive growth ended up allowing them to hit that 30 to 35% increase. Of course, the cash bottom line impact of that, because it was with their existing assets, is huge. The CapEx requests they were able to avoid by finding capacity in a different plant or a different area, tremendous. So that would be one example of just very concretely how that can look. I won't tell a kind of separate additional story, but I'll just add that we also have customers that have started to layer on, in addition to that, bottom line impact from addressing issues with utilization, also be looking for and finding opportunities to drive revenue by having the detailed sustainability and carbon data to back it up. So Pretty and Packaging is an example of a real leader in this. They're using all of that energy data across all their equipment, not only to get lots of cash back from being able to find those low-hanging fruit energy efficiency opportunities, but also to be able to credibly, design and build that sustainability plan that's going to have them leveraging that as a competitive strength moving forward. So hopefully those are two straightforward examples. But
I mean, particularly on the first one, right? I mean, there's EBITDA. You want EBITDA, you got EBITDA, right? So no, I mean, it's not in your mind, this isn't cost the company. This is not $1 billion investment. I mean, this is it's right there. So that those exist, which I think is exciting for any manufacturers. That's very gettable. Rudy, talk to us a little bit on, because again, I know a lot of your background is in tech, and then kind of more some SaaS solutions that are feeding directly I guess value creation gains to manufacturers. But give us a little bit, you talk about supply chain a little bit in our prep call, walk through some of the practical examples of how you see kind of in the end of the day 4.0 driving value creation.
Yeah, sure. And I'm going to sort of, again, take a little bit of what Lauren talked about around energy savings, which, you know, sounds like a great idea. And it used to be the third bullet point on why you should buy this as a solution. And then we were working with a company that had, you know, this control automation. It could automatically turn on and off devices and remotely monitor them. And they were approached by a very large public industrial automation company that said, you know, we operate globally. The war in Ukraine we don't know if we're going to run out of natural gas and if we're going to have any electricity this winter. You know, we have suddenly, and the EU is mandating decarbonization regulation, and it's now pushing down from big concerns to a mom and pop deli is you're going to have to tell me what you're doing. We don't have solutions for that. We've got these great solutions that cost $1 million, but the guy who's running the restaurant or a small manufacturer now suddenly has to have this information. And not only does he need to have the information to be able to report it to the authorities and say, I'm in compliance. And by the way, this is also happening in California and New York and other places. But now they just need to know that, how do I turn down the thermostat or whatever else it is and the energy usage? And they were like, we need this right now. You know, they were talking to a lot of companies that had developed similar software, and they were looking at companies that had less than 5 million in revenues that had the technology and a few proof cases that it's been working, it's been implemented. It's maybe we got 50 customers, 100 customers. So again, that was a big company, and they're like, we're ready to write a check as long as we can do it, because as soon as we get that technology, we don't care about the revenue size. Mm-hmm. There's a complete value proposition, because it's going to be a requirement, statutory requirement, to have these things. Plus, people need it because they are not going to be able to pay the bills, because suddenly the electricity bill went from, you know, 17 cents a kilowatt hour to 75 cents.
Right.
I'm going to have to shut down. I'm only going to operate. So that's a real driver for these things. And again, there's EBITDA and other things that are there, but it's just like, can we stay in business? It's a gotta have now. The other example I'll mention is, and I think we talked about, you know, increasing capacity and stuff, you know, and, you know, people are looking at, how can I increase the throughput on the manufacturing floor? And, you know, again, am I going to invest $1 million in a new machine that does automatic welding or whatever else, all these robots and stuff? And the short answer is now they are doing that, because, yeah, I can suddenly see an immediate return, and I have 10x throughput through a specific process on the floor, on the manufacturing floor, and the cost has gotten down enough, so it's not $1 million, it's a couple $100,000. Well, that's 5 guys, and guess what? I can repurpose my guys to another thing, so I'm actually saving money. So we've seen a lot of examples of manufacturers putting in this automation, which again is now much more mature and accessible, and it has 80% of the functionality of these great machines, which cost $1 million, but it's, you know, it works, and I don't need to have a degree in rocket science to keep it operating, which is another thing. The hard part of maintaining a lot of these systems was, I got a service contract, and I got a guy with a PhD in mechanical and electrical engineering coming in to reset it every time. And it should be more like a copy machine. Why the hell can't the guy come in, clean it, and double check it? And it's right. a $200 service, you know, a month service charge per machine or whatever it is. So that's happening now. I think that the models have gotten better so that those service contracts are easier. And again, the capital expense is gone, because it's being sold. Here's the solution, but you're really paying for the software subscription, as opposed to, I bought the box or the remote monitoring device. We'll give that to you for free, because we were going to get the monthly charge for maintaining it. So I think those models, so the way that these technologies are being brought to market makes it much more accessible to a broader set of customers that may be, again, And again, it's immediately reflective to the bottom line in terms of adding contribution model. And now, as Lauren mentioned, we've got very good use cases and ROI models that are very clear. And people were always, that's always there was the part of the friction in implementing these technologies was like, am I really going to get my money back? I can't spend this money right now. But now there's enough charter cases and there's been enough implementation of the technology that there are very clear value propositions to the buyer.
Great. What I hear out of all three is it's approachable, it's real, not, again, not rocket science. I think it's cathartic, right? So as thinking of like the folks listening in and assuming that some are, we know that the folks on the phone are probably some varying levels of like, we got manufacturing companies that are fully, 4.0 and writing books on it versus some that are probably like much farther behind. But so what I like about it is it's very approachable. Just to wrap it up, I'd say from Plant Moran's perspective, within our ops teams, like we see we're doing a lot of work around pricing and costing analysis, like using 4.0 kind of platforms, if you will, to figure out what the heck it costs to make something. So I can, again, price it correctly. Or as you may have heard, we're in a period of inflation. So that's obviously a big deal for manufacturers, irrespective of end industry. And so, think of like clients coming to us and PE-owned clients or PE clients who own manufacturers coming like, yeah, our portfolio companies are kind of between, hope and, prayer to kind of get the price right or the cost right. And so, again, everything the three of you discussed, it's like, yeah, you don't have to use that. There's real addressable things here that drive smart pricing, for price increases that you have to give to your existing customers based on inflation, and then also quoting things appropriately. So we're extremely active in that. Okay, wrapping it up here, kind of like the last topic. Let's put back to Tom and Rudy. Deal makers are on the phone. We don't have a lot of manufacturers, there are a few, but really this is mostly an M&A kind of a crew. So and there's one question that did come in from the audience already around like, how is this impacting valuations as there is companies that the two of your firms are representing and bringing to market. Could you just, maybe that's an easy way to start. Rudy, I'll go to you first. You've gone last every time, so thanks for that. So, because it's always tough going last, but Rudy, start from your perspective, how this is impacting valuations, and or how you may be at Mirus be advising clients, your sell side advisor clients to invest in those technologies before going to market.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, if you're a manufacturer or a business that's implementing these technologies, it does make you much more attractive to potential buyers or investors, because, and we've seen that relatively, again, a 2x, increase. So if the normal companies in your industry trade for 7 to 9 times, you could be sold for 9 to 10, 9 to 12 times. And, we've seen that in a recent company we worked with. There were 2 other companies very similar in the market. And, we got a premium to those other buyers because we were implementing these technologies. The ability to provide that they would ask a question, how do you do this? What about if you change this? Oh, well, this is what the impact would be. That visibility and transparency is very reassuring to investors and buyers. And it also, they're also, again, we're seeing a lot for local businesses and manufacturers and that there's a onshoring capability. And they're like, well, we used to save costs by having everything done in Asia or South America or Mexico. Well, they can't do that now. And it's, so they're saying like, you need to fit this sort of profitability profile. And if you don't hit it, I'm going to send it off to offshore. So as a manufacturer, it absolutely does contribute to that. And I think the other thing that'll do is, again, the other growth drivers that people look, or valuation drivers that people look at, is growth. And if you're that much more profitable, you could put your resources in different areas. It's going to really, really help you grow faster, which again is going to make you more attractive. I forgot the other part of the question now. Valuation drivers. Well, anyhow, I think
That's good. That's great.
Yeah, so it's gonna
Yeah.
that's a significant increase in value that you can get just from just saying I'm implementing it and providing that level of professionalism for a middle market company to say, hey, I understand what drivers and leverage you can get out of a business, and I am investing in those technologies so that I can create that leverage for you as an investor or a buyer.
Very helpful, very insightful. Well done, Rudy. So you're good. Tom, maybe building on that, feel free to just in general share your perspective on valuations, but maybe talk to the audience here around like as you think about bringing I feel like we're still kind of on the front-ish end of this where not 100% of companies have this implemented, they're coming to market, but like, is it maybe 25% of the companies that perhaps you're seeing, Tom, at your investment banking firm, like, because it feels like there's still room to like have true value, creative value, brought into the organization, because it hasn't been fully implemented across. So maybe that'd be an interesting perspective, kind of building on what Rudy said. So take it away.
Sure. Let me say that I think there's still a lot of room to grow for these companies that are trying to get credit. And there's two ways to do it. One is sometimes you have to use it to defend value, right? I'm working with a company right now that has gone through COVID. COVID has resulted in, as everybody has commented already, in tremendous supply chain disruptions. This is a company that is a US manufacturer. They grew a lot during COVID because they were a US manufacturer. They were gaining share from competitors who were trying to get their products from overseas. That was a non-starter. So the company was pretty flexible in its manufacturing. It had good flexible manufacturing technology to be able to essentially tee up smaller orders, sort of just in time, very limited inventory, and a very quick kind of conversion of an opportunity onto the plant floor and then turning into a shippable product. So that was all very good. The problem that they had was that the changes in material costs and some labor things, but were happening so quickly that there was a significant delay, even a delay of a few months or 6 months in kind of getting that through on their pricing, resulted in let's say, even though sales were growing, not an appropriate material increase in EBITDA, until finally it all came together in 22. So now they're in a situation where, for a variety of reasons, they really need to find an exit and solution. And evaluation, people are saying, well, gee, if I put a multiple on 22, that's a multiple on 1 year of results. And how do I get comfortable with that? How do I make my banks get comfortable with it, because they're going to finance against that? And so we're really using their systems to try to drill down and say, look, it's not just pricing that may go away. It's here's the mix of new customers we brought on, and these are the customers that went away because they weren't as profitable. And if you can illustrate that value, that really helps get people comfortable with saying, okay, then I will, put my hand over my heart and give a value based on essentially not a lot of history, and maybe a forward year forecast that's built on a very good year. And that's, you need some data, you need some decent data to be able to, explain that. And these are in companies that are, 30, 40, 50 million in revenue, not huge companies. So definitely seeing it as an important piece of supporting value and valuation. And if you can't make that argument, if you can't convey that information, you're basically either not going to get a deal done, or you're going to have to take a significant haircut on valuation.
Right.
And I'm going to jump in here because, again, I think
Please.
Tom talked about a good thing, which is, again, as we're entering these uncertain economic times and we're seeing a lot of headwinds, resiliency and ability to adapt to changing market conditions, where suddenly there's huge drops in demand for your product or whatever else it is, all of that is going to be having the automation and the control and be able to track a lot of these things and have it automated is an important checkbox that people are going to be looking for. So it's going to help weather the storm. And I think Lauren could talk more about that. But again, I think that's another thing that, again, being talking about current events right now and how, all this is great technology, but do I really need it right now? I'm facing economic, downturn possibly. So we're seeing a lot more people thinking, oh, I got cost cutting measures. I'm going to cut this, but I'm going to have to buy, and implement some of these new technologies. And almost, I have to say, 50% of the companies that we're working with right now are in the processes of not only upgrading and adding different IT technologies, but like their Epicor or whatever, their large ERP manufacturing system, but also adding on these other sensors, systems, and technologies like what Goldwheel provides.
Got it.
Guidewheel, sorry, Guidewheel.
Turning EBITDA into gold. I would just say maybe to wrap up that conversation, I'll just make a perspective here from our, we do 550 buy side and sell side transactions out of our due diligence practice. And I guess I'll just say it to kind of, echo what Rudy and Tom said. Yes, of course, this is a great just opportunity to drive value, period. But I think maybe the added comment I would just have is that, you hear about the common threads of this conversation. It just doesn't sound like there's not a whole lot of roadblocks, right, to do this stuff. And so I think we expect that not just from our transaction services group, but it's also on our operations side. Like, this is gonna be a busy time. It's a great time over the next, really the shorter term, the next start, now through the next couple, 3 years. I would expect particularly, manufacturers that are PE owned, like what private equity firm is going to look at this kind of the narrative coming out of our 50-minute discussion saying, well, I'm not going to do that. Like, no one's going to say that. They're like, hell yeah, I'm in that. Let's do that. Right. So I think we just generally expect to see that just being I guess the bowling and underscoring of some of these just to kind of continue. Okay. Just got time for, I think we have time for one last kind of comment or question. And this was actually directed to Tom, and it's kind of a bit related, but just talking about, some of your, like, it's a board question and kind of the length of time you've been in this business. And the question is like, is 4.0 something that tends to spread from the center of management, decision-making to the outside edge of the organization? Sure, it varies per company, but how are you seeing that start with a round table of executives in the room exploding out? Is it like this, or is it like this?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, I think it's important for the center leadership, to set the tone, to set the interest in that innovation occurs in the organization, but it's very hard to drive centrally. It really has to be driven from the outer parts of the organization. And so in my experience, whether it's a large firm or a small firm, you want some, empowerment going on there for people to sort of say, okay, I've got to fix this problem. I'm not going to, nobody from central office is going to give me a solution. What can I do? And what tools do I need to kind of help improve my line? And the manufacturing plant, and we've seen this through like cell manufacturing, which has been implemented a lot, the need to kind of actually break bigger, larger, cumbersome systems into smaller ones, where a small team of operators can look at their world and and say, here's, if we made these changes, we can turn around and achieve better metrics, and we'll all look like heroes. That's the kind of culture that's still driving a lot of the improvements at the factory floor. So I'd say centrally, create the right tone, create the leadership, get out of the office, go walk the floor, and in the floor, make people who are on the floor feel like they are kind of getting recognized for their ideas and their innovation. Encourage them to use the technology that's available to them, and then kind of let them take the lead. I would say outside in right now is kind of way it needs to go.
Great. And let's maybe leave it there, right? We started with 1700s all the way through 4.0, and it ends with Tom's kind of point on people, culture, leadership, which I think is a great kind of stopping point. With that, Tom, Lauren, Rudy, thank you. This is fun. Good dialogue, exciting, and a very gettable, approachable topic. So thank you to the three of you. Great working at this one. And thanks for the folks listening in. Lena, I will throw it back over to you.
Thank you so much to our panelists. Ted, thank you for leading the discussion as well. I think this was very informative. I hope everyone on the call enjoyed it. We will be posting this to our YouTube, so stay tuned for that link if you need to refresh on anything that was shared. Upcoming events, we have our Healthcare Deal Connect tomorrow. Might be a little too late to sign up for that, but just so you know, business services webinar coming up on the 31st, investors roundtable, etc. So a lot going on. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Get in touch with us if you have any questions, if we can help you out. But until then, everyone, be well, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.